Here we are on a nice afternoon in our kitchen again, and we're looking at the Priorat wine. I feel like I've neglected that section of my cellar for a while, so I'm back to it. It's by Nin Ortiz, family Nin Ortiz, and it's called Planetes de Nin, and it's really from the Planetes vineyard. Esther Nin and Carlos Ortiz got started in the wine business in Priorat separately in the early 2000s after having worked, especially Esther, at other big names like Mas Martinet and others. And then they met after they started in the wine business, and they combined. So they got married and they combined their properties. They have a few properties in the heart of Priorat, between the different villages of Gratelops and some of the others in elevation. Some of them are north facing, which is interesting. This is one of them. Planetes is the north facing vineyard. This is a mix of Grenache and Carignan, so Grenache and Carignan, and the vines are not very old, because again, some of these properties were developed more recently, so we're talking 10, 20, 25 years old, and they have some other maybe much higher end wines, over $100, but this is one of the really good wines that consistently comes out to be very good and very tasty. They're very focused on biodynamic and organic viticulture. It's partly destemmed, in minority, destemmed, hand harvested. As we know, the hills there anyway lend themselves to that. I think they kind of till the ground with mules or something, and then they just don't use any pesticides, herbicides, anything like that. And so they've become actually leaders in that movement. And at the same time, they're young. It's a young property. So this is 2016, which is one of the good recent years in Priorat. It's another venture by Eric Solomon, whom we've discussed before, that really finds these wonderful producers in the north of Spain and helps them get themselves into the US. Anyway, I had some yesterday. We're gonna have some today. The color, when you pour it, it looks light, but in the glass, it's really what you expect. It's sort of a darker purple hue to it. It's got some legs in the glass. It's 14.5% alcohol, so it is alcoholic. It was a hot year. It comes from the sun, even though it's north facing, and on the nose, it's really still opening up, which is amazing. I mean, I think that this thing, if anything, it had more going for it yesterday than it does have today. Maybe it's just a very strong, very young vines that really needs time to express itself, and wine too. And to be honest, every time I pour some, at the first whiff is a little bit of sulfur, which is unusual because they put very little sulfur in only at bottling, consistent with their biodynamic customs and rules. But for whatever reason, maybe again it's still finding its footing. You get a little bit of that, then it dissipates, and then you get more of the typical fruit, red fruit, a little bit of raspberry maybe, so a little bit sharper than your usual red fruit, and some graphite or pencil lead, some of that sort of bouquet. In the mouth, it's more of what you would expect with the red fruits, the richness, the coating of the palate, because of the sort of alcohol, but not a lot of tannins, at least not in the way you feel it. It's really the most of the action, I think, is in the mid palate, not necessarily in the attack, not in the finish, but it just got this coating in your mouth, and you really just feel it for a while. It's a little bit more restrained. It doesn't have the exuberance of like this really sun-drenched Grenache, And maybe it's because of the north and northeast facing vines. It's got some more restrained, some more sort of, I want to say discipline, but just restrained, I think, is a good word. And it does really do the job in a very straightforward, very appealing way, again, without being exuberant. So I think it's a classy wine. It's got what you expect coming from the Priorat, but it's a slightly different angle because of the northern exposure, because of the youth of the vines. Let's just take another sip. And I do think it needs a while to open up, whether you just gotta leave the bottle open for a day or two, really open, or whether you have to give it a few more years to come together. But it's a wine that really lives up to its promise. It's not cheap, but it's not super expensive either. We're talking $40-50, but it's a very high quality wine by an up and coming power couple in the region. Thank you, and see you soon.